All right. Welcome to our Tech Talk Product Manager in the Enterprise. While we begin, please scan the QR code that is now on your screen to interact with Vlad in the Q&A session or join at slido.com with the code you can see also on the screen to ask questions or leave your comments there. And over there as well, let us know if you are part of EPAM. Great. We are very excited to have here Vlad Grubman, Director Product Management at EPAM. But before, I'd like to tell you a little bit about us. As you can see, we are a global community with presence in over 45 countries, and we are expanding in the region with the best talents. We have presence in 7 countries in Latin America. We are building the best engineering company over here. We are in Colombia, Dominican Republic, Panama, Chile, Ecuador, Uruguay. And as I mentioned before, we are looking to expand in the next few years, bringing the best job opportunities and career paths in the region. So if you're here in those countries and you're looking for new opportunities, scan this QR code and explore all of our open vacancies and please feel free to apply. We want to also tell you that qualified candidates with certain skills will receive sign-on bonuses. We're currently looking for senior Java developers. So again, scan the QR code and apply. We have great career paths and great job opportunities for you. And here we have Vlad. Vlad, thank you again for always being here for us. Vlad was on our off-site event. We were really excited to have you here today as well. So thank you very much. And please, floor is all yours.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. All right, let's get started. The topic today is product management in the enterprise. I'm going to go through the presentation. There will be a few stops down the line. So please send in the questions using that QR code that you've seen, and I'll try to answer them either as I go along or at the end of the tech talk. Either way, we'll try to get as many questions as possible. If not, then we'll see what we can do about answering them online. So today's agenda, that's not, yep, thank you. Today's agenda is pretty simple. Why we're talking about the enterprise, what are the roles, and where do the product manager fit in the enterprise, and how enterprise builds product. How is it different from all the other companies that are building products, and why is it important to talk about those differences? A little bit about me. Who's this guy? Why is he? Let's move to the next slide. Why is he talking? I have about 15 years of experience in product management total. I worked in multiple verticals, built multiple products. Most of my experience is with the enterprise products. So I know what I'm talking about, and I want to share it with you guys. And hopefully you'll like building. You'll see past the facade of consumer products, and what it is. What is there to like about building enterprise products? So without further ado, let's move on. Why are we talking about the enterprise? Well, let's move to the next slide. There is no definite. Uh, there's no definition of what the enterprise is, right? There's you can find multiple sort of kind of descriptions of what the enterprise company is compared to everything else. Well, you have a picture that pretty much tells you what the difference is. For our purposes, we're going to think about the enterprise as a company larger than 500 employees. You can argue there are financial indicators, there are others, but probably the easiest is once you start having more than 500 employees, you're going to start building products for the people who work for the company, and that's kind of like a biggest differentiator. A company can be building external products, but at some point they're going to start building tools and they're going to need product managers for those tools as well, so that you build the tools, and then those tools help you build consumer facing products. As you can see, about 40% of product managers, this is the data from Product Plan. They did a survey last year. This is 2020. This is 2021 data, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see, about 40% of all product managers work at the companies that we're going to call enterprise companies, which is the companies over 500 employees. So let's move to the next slide. And here's the trick: EPAM is also an enterprise company. We're actually slightly larger than 500 people. We're at 65,000, 62,000 people as at the end of Q1. So it's probably more by now. We're part of the Standard & Poor's 500, publicly traded company, $3.7 billion revenue in 2021. But the most important part is we are building all these cool things. We do business consulting, platform engineering, development, technology services, and a lot of things we're building for our clients are products. We're building products, we're consulting products, and we help other companies build their products, either by providing our engineering services, providing our business analysts, providing our product managers, product owners, and business consultants. So, what is it so special about product managers specifically, and in general, product managers specifically? Let's move to the next slide. They're the three core qualities. Think about it this way: if you have these three qualities, you're probably a product manager somewhere. You know how to simplify ideas, you know how to collaborate, and you're not afraid to make mistakes. Really simple, really straightforward. If you get it, then that's probably a product manager within you, somewhere. So let's move on. What is it that the product managers want to do versus what is it that they do? And this is really interesting. Again, this is a product plan. They did survey in 2021, and I just want to point out a couple of things here. You can read it later if you want. Most popular career goal is being a product leader. What does that mean? It means that not every product manager gets to be the true product leader, gets to really work from end to end, from the inception of the product to taking the product to the market. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's always good to see yourself as a CEO of a product. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's now no longer the case. Not every product manager gets to be a CEO of a product. Products getting bigger, products getting more complex. The current trend, if you will, is to not talk about individual products, but we in the enterprise world, we're seeing product portfolios or product ecosystems, which is a bunch of products sort of pulled together by a common goal. A good example that everyone I think is familiar with is Facebook. And I keep referring to Facebook. I'm going to probably bring it up a couple of more times. The reason why I keep bringing it up is because everybody knows what the Facebook is, but there's so much more to Facebook than just that one timeline that everybody's seeing. Messenger is a separate product. WhatsApp is a separate product. Advertising and marketing is a separate product within Facebook. Marketplace, dating, groups, pages. These are all individual capabilities within product that is called, well, now it's called Meta. It used to be Facebook. What I'm trying to say is they're all kind of sort of, well, can marketplace exist on its own? Yes, of course it can. Can a messenger exist on its own? Of course. People use messenger all the time without going to Facebook. So these are individual capabilities or individual products, if you will, that stand by themselves, but they're part of a larger ecosystem. So back to the point here, enterprise product managers are not always product leaders. They could be leaders in their individual niche or in their individual items, capabilities or features that they're building, and that's great. That still gives you ability to innovate, still gives you an ability to be creative and solve real user problems. So like I said, being a product manager in the enterprise actually opens a lot more doors. But obviously, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that it's obviously not all um, rainbows and roses. Some things are not as good as you may you may think they are. So we call it the good, the bad, and the ugly of the enterprise product management. There's certainly positive factors. Like I said, even if you're not leading the whole product like Meta, you still get to lead individual capabilities that are pretty cool, solve real problems, and you can really dive into it and exercise your powers, your magical powers of the product management. The good part about working for the enterprise, like clients of EPAM, for example, is the resources. And one thing that you probably never gonna see is, and I've done this before. I actually had to build a product on basically pocket money. Like took me $300-400 to build a first prototype, not because it was some kind of a wicked challenge, because company couldn't afford to pay more, and we had to figure out how to do it. Had to make do with what we have. So resource is definitely something that enterprise companies will have. The people, the money, the infrastructure. It's all going to be there. You just need the good justification to use it, but you're not going to be strained on resources. You're not going to fight. Oh, I need another $100 to buy this, thing that will help me do something. It's probably going to be there. That $100 is not going to be a problem. So resources are there. That's good. You don't have to worry about that. You can focus on the product, and you can focus on things. Variety is something I already talked about. There's multiple capabilities within even the single product ecosystem, or within a single enterprise product. So there's a number of things that are really challenging, really interesting that you can work on. But of course, the good does not come without the bad side. Having a large company, having a lot of resources, having a lot of variety comes with a lot of inertia. Think about a huge locomotive running forward, and the company. This is your enterprise company. This is your corporation doing things. But in order for you, if you want to change something, if you want to uh, do a pivot, if you want to update, change the process, change the product, think of something new and innovative, you have to fight against that inertia, have to fight against that stuff. Siloed environment, a lot of companies do things, within their own department, within their own business unit, within their own, IT or section or field, and it may work against you. This is kind of one of the things that EPAM product managers help their clients with, is breaking down the silos and making sure all parts of the organization collaborate, build things together rather than in silos. Because one of the best parts about being a product manager is being an orchestrator of things, making sure you're pulling resources that you need from across the company. Obviously, there's an ugly part to it. No one really talks about, but I think it's fair to mention. Ugly part of the enterprise, that's internal politics, and as a consequence of that, or kind of like another side of the coin, is a lack of transparency. You may see decisions being made behind closed doors that you're not seeing. You may see people not giving you the reason why you can't use the resources the company has, or why you can't work on the product capability that or feature that you really want to, and it really is annoying. And that actually is a good lead in into the next section. The question is, why is this happening? Why internal politics? Why lack of transparency? Why siloed environment? Why? So let's move on to the next section, which is called organizational structures and roles. This is where we discover why these things are happening. So this is an example of the org structure. It's not something real. It's just a picture of anything, and you can see how far you are removed from the big boss, right? From CEO of your unit or CEO of a company. You have multiple layers of upper management, and you have silos. You have verticals. So on the left could be a business, on the right could be IT, or could be marketing, or could be something else, and you're somewhere down the chain. And then there's even more people under you, or there's an IT team, or development team, engineering team, however you want to call it, underneath it, and that's someone you have to work with. There's lateral people in the organization at your level that whether you will need to work with in order to build your product. And this sort of bloat, this excess of the management, is on one hand is what makes the company what it is, having resources available, having variety available, but at the same time it slows things down, and it makes things not work as well as it should. So what are the stakeholders? Who are these people that you will be working with at your lateral level, maybe plus one, minus one? Let's move to the next slide. These would be your stakeholders. The BU had the general manager, program manager, project manager, and engineering manager. These are the people that EPAM product managers regularly work with on the client side. Occasionally, there would be a product manager, or the the title is product owner, but it's not the product owner from the agile team. It's more of a product owner of the business caliber. So it's the business owner of the whole product. It's the person who's responsible for success of the business goal, of a business mission that that particular capability of that particular product is designed to do. It could be BU head, but it could be general manager playing that high level PO role. Don't confuse it. Enterprises are really good at making confusing roles. This is one of them. These are the people that EPAM product managers work with, um, but they exist already in the structure. They already there. They sort of run business as usual, and then EPAM product manager comes in and starts working with these people. So where do EPAM product managers fit in, or where enterprise product managers fit in? So let's see. Let's move on. All right. So that's that's where we are. We are anywhere, wherever the work is done, because product manager is a pretty unique role in a way that they see the product from the vision to execution. Obviously, they're not doing it alone. Obviously, there are multiple parties involved, and in large enterprise companies, there's a lot of people involved, especially at the highest level, why things are the way they are. And these are the people you need to convince as a product manager. These are the people you need to convince in sort of investing in your product, but this is an internal investment. It's not like they're paying real money. They have the budget and they can decide where to spend it on. And that's the one of those differences between working as a product manager for a small company or for a startup and working within the enterprise. You have to convince people to spend. Uh, we sometimes call this monopoly money or paper money, which is they're not real money. They're just budgets allocated for a specific department. At the same time, these are the real money that you pay for salaries, for the people who work in your product. You pay for the infrastructure and systems that you need to purchase in order to build your product. So they're not that monopoly. They're real money, just sort of somewhere on the paper. And the best part is your role is a lot more narrower in the enterprise than it is in the startup. In the startup environment or in smaller companies, you get to wear a lot of these. So if we move to the next slide, it really shows who's responsible for what in the enterprise world. There's the why, the what, the when. The product manager is mostly focused on the why I was building this, and what is it that we're building. In other words, we need to formulate the problem statement and then decide how we're gonna what we're gonna build in order to solve that problem. Now, when you go into when is it going to be built, who are the people going to be building it, how much it's going to cost, how we're going to solve it, that's the responsibility of the different people. In a startup environment, you probably will end up wearing multiple hats and covering a lot of these bases. In the enterprise world, your role is a lot narrower, but the good part is it allows you to focus more on building the actual products. And let's go to the next slide for a moment. This is sort of the collaboration picture. It looks like a pentagram, and you're in the middle. So they summon the devil to to make things happen. Please don't take this as a bad reference. It's actually good that all these entities, the engineering, the finance, the program manager, marketing, they all depend on the product manager to orchestrate, pull them together, and define what is it that they're doing. The product manager is responsible for strategy and the vision of the product, or even their individual capability, has to align with everything else, has to align with a product, a larger product or product ecosystem, the bigger picture. Same thing, engineering needs to understand what is it that they're building, how is it going to solve the problem, and product manager is responsible for a product lifecycle, which means once you launch the product, what happens next? Do you need to support it? Do you need to let the users know that this is available? How do you do that? How do you communicate that? How do you support the users? What's the best way to support the users? Given that these are sometimes your internal users, that not necessarily this is not necessarily external market. So having said all that, collaboration, great. Responsibility is great. So how do you really build a product, right? What do you do as part of your product? You sit in the meetings all day? Yes, almost. Let's go to the next section. So how enterprise builds products, and specifically how EPAM product managers build products. So one of the most important things that people sort of miss when they talk about differences between the enterprise product building and startup or smaller company product building, in many cases, small companies are being started, especially startups, started to build product. That's the whole purpose of the company's existence: building that amazing product, innovating in a specific space, potentially disrupting the industry or disrupting specific vertical, and that's the whole reason for a company's existence. Enterprise companies are completely different from that. Enterprise companies, they already exist, they're already solving problems, they're already making money, they're already probably profitable, hopefully. Otherwise, they're not gonna hire you. And they already doing something. There's already things in motion. There's already things that exist. They, in other words, the landscape of where your product is going to exist is not empty. There are things there. So the first thing you do, you need to assess what's already there, and why are you being asked to build the product if there's already things that are solving people's problems. And in most cases, we're not talking about external users, we're talking about internal users. So think, I don't know, if you're thinking about an e-commerce company, think about the system that uh, monitors the orders. So the end user and customer made an order. Somebody has to track that order, make sure the payment came through, make sure payment didn't get declined, make sure there's no chargeback, make sure that the order has been fulfilled by the warehouse. So somebody put the right coffee maker in the right box, put the right shipping label on it, and pushed it out so that the carrier can pick it up. So there's already systems in place. So you need to understand what's already happening, what's already there, how your new product or how your improvement to the product can solve more problems or solve existing problems better, build it, and then scale it up. So that's number one. You need to understand what's already there. How do you deal with it? Are we going to use it? Are we not going to use it? And what's going to happen next? So what happens next? Let's go to the next slide. And this is what you see. You see this never-ending loop of building applications over and over and over at the enterprise. And this is probably one of the funniest moments you're gonna see in the enterprise product manager role. Someone wants a problem to be solved, so they cut out the project, they build the application, but because they didn't really talk to users or they didn't really understand the problem, they build an application that's really very hard to use or not really solving problem, and users are not using it. So management discovers there's a problem and the existing application's not really solving it. So they cut out another project to build another application, and this cycle repeats itself over and over and over. So first task, once you have assessed the current landscape of the applications, is break that cycle. Stop building useless apps, start building useful, meaningful products. Let's go to the next one. And another the next the next step after you start breaking down that cycle is fighting. It's fighting is probably not a good word, but working with people on implementing the changes to how you approach solving problems and building these new products, this meaningful portfolio of products. People are resistant to change, so you're going to see a lot of people fighting back and telling you, no, we don't need to do this. You're going to see a lot of people, and this is not even a joke. 99% of the enterprise can be solved through Excel. We've seen Excel files as large as some serious sized databases because people were more familiar with Excel with yet another application that somebody else built in their IT. So they're just like, yeah, let them build that application. We're just going to keep using Excel. We're going to be fine. We don't need to do anything else. Just because people have this solution within the enterprise doesn't mean they will use it. Doesn't mean they will actually go and start plugging in things into that solution because they know in a year or 2 years that application that they're forced to be used today is going to be replaced by another one. So why bother learning this one if it's going to get replaced, right? Then another huge problem within the enterprise that we're seeing as EPAM product consultants or product managers playing the actual product management role is not their decision makers, the people who decide that certain applications need to be built, are not talking to the users. This is probably the biggest. Um, I don't want to call it the biggest. It's the biggest problem. Let's put it this way: they're not talking to the users. So remember that stakeholder conversation. This the systems, the applications that are being built to satisfy the stakeholders more than to satisfy the actual users. In many cases, you will have a layer between the users and the builders. I'm not going to call them product managers or product teams because they're not really product teams yet. They're development teams or teams that build applications. There's a layer. Usually, it's program management office or PMO. Could be project managers. Could be others. So business knows best. So let the business decide what needs to be built. No one talks to users. It's a huge problem. Another trick with that is once you start working, once you uh, get into the groove of being an enterprise product manager, you're going to start asking questions doing the discovery or through any other process. You start talking about current pain points, and that's a huge problem. One of the cases that we've seen was when we started asking existing users of the current application, the application that the enterprise was using. What are your current problems? What are your current pain points? What do you want us to solve? They started talking about the bugs in the current system. Sometimes these bugs were already documented. Somebody's already working on them, but they keep talking about them because that's the biggest pain point for them today. And in many cases, EPAM product managers come in with a fresh perspective. This is what we do. We look at things from a completely different angle, for lack of a better word, from a more holistic point of view. And the question we're usually asking is, if this was your Christmas list, if Santa came to town and he granted you three wishes, how would you spend those three wishes on building a solution that works for you? Forget the current product, forget the bugs, forget the problem. Just tell me what would be ideal workflow, what would be ideal way of dealing with your job through support from one of the IT systems, how would you build it? And believe it or not, this question does wonders. First of all, it puts people in the Christmas mood, which is always nice. People start thinking good thoughts, and that's always awesome. And the second part is they start thinking, oh, if I didn't have to, if I weren't limited by my current application, by the current solution, what would be the ideal way? What would be the best way to do my job? And you will hear from the users directly, like this is how you get to this is what you would do. This is how you do it, and that's how you start building the product. You start listening to the users first. You try to understand what is it that they ultimately trying to achieve. And this is, since we're already on this slide, I'm gonna transition into it. And this is where majority, the hugest part of the breakdown occurs. Once you stop thinking about the one-time result, like, oh, we just need to build an application that does X, and you don't need to build that application. You need to solve user problems, and users problems are always sort of rolling through. They always change the more you add to their plate. Sometimes their job changes, sometimes the way they do the job changes. So you cannot continuously focus on the one-time result. You have to continue provide continuous value by building the product. Within the enterprise, it means a little bit different thing from the consumer. From consumer point standpoint, it's a little different, but from the enterprise, especially if you're building an internal product, user needs to be able to do their job more efficiently with each iteration of your product, and that's probably the biggest takeaway. So by shifting from that never-ending loop where you keep building different applications to building a product that continuously evolve and continuously adds value, that's how you solve that problem, reduce waste, and um, do other cool things. But most most of all, this is how you innovate. This is this is the only way to innovate, by continuously support the users, continuously providing new or extended value to them. Let's move to the next slide. So we already talked about shifting from one-time result to continuous value. How does that happen? Uh, we call this a transition from project to product, from project mindset to product mindset, and this is your product building pyramid. This is the holy grail, if you will, of building successful products. You start with the business case. What is the business problem you're trying to solve? Then you define what the ideal experience would be. What is the product vision and product strategy? How do you see this problem being solved in the most ideal way possible? Which is why you need to talk to users and ask them, if this was Christmas, what would be your wish? Once you have that, once you have the priorities established, once you have the roadmap, a high level roadmap laid out in front of you, you will be able to look into details. You start engaging UX, user experience designers, UI designers. You start engaging solution architects, enterprise architects, and engineers, and defining the how of the product. So up to this point, up to the product strategy, you're defining what the problem is and how you're going to approach it. Once you start going into the design and engineering, you start defining the how of the solution, like how we're going to solve it, how we're going to do it. And once you start prototyping, once you start building things, you start measuring the success, which you also need to define, and you start understanding, are you on the right track? Are you doing things right? One of the cool things, let's move to the next slide. One of the cool things that can help you is what we call a design thinking or product mindset. You try to understand what your users do, what they want, sort of look into their behavior, how they behave today. You look at how they want to behave tomorrow. That question that I keep pondering, if this is Christmas, is one of those user interview questions we asked for internal products that yielded absolutely amazing results. Then you build prototype, you prioritize which features are the most important. There are a number of frameworks that help you do that. You go through several workshops that help you define the product and define the prototype and define the MVP or minimum viable product. Or in case of the existing product, again, remember, this is the enterprise, things are already there. You may not be able to build a brand new product, brand new solution. You may get in and decide that it makes sense to evolve the existing application into the product space rather than building from the scratch. Building from the scratch in the enterprise is really expensive, both in terms of resources and effort on the side of the employees. So really problematic uh, proposition. And then uh, once you start building prototypes and start building beta, alpha, beta, gamma versions, MVPs, and all that, and it could be a beta of a feature you're adding to the existing thing, or you may do a sort of a facelift, redesign, refresh. You need to start measuring everything. Measure, analyze, make sure you get as much data as possible. And I'll talk to that in a second. But once you collect any analytics, any data, any information at all, even through user interviews, you start to optimize whatever it is you just built. And one of the cool things about the optimization is there's not that many users, so they tend to be less the difference between their opinions tend to be less distributed, less scattered across the sort of opinion space compared to the external market. They either all love it or all hate it or all indifferent. So it's easier to please 1,000 people than it is 100,000 people, even though it's a it's a questionable assumption, but I would go with that based on my experience. It's easier to build a product for 1,000 people than it is for 100,000 people. So, having said that, what is the major difference between? Let's kind of summarize. Let's get to the point where we talk about the list of differences between the enterprise product and consumer-centric products, and things that product managers deal within the enterprise versus the uh, regular products. Let's move to the next section. Thank you. And next slide. All right. So here's a list. I'm not going to read the list. I just want to try and sort of help you understand why things are the way they are. And users are not your buyers, the first thing in the enterprise, but at the same time, user problems are customer problems. So for the consumer products, in many cases, your buyer is your user. Whoever pays you money for the product is the one who's using it. There are some exceptions. I don't know, like Slack, for example, or Miro or Canva. Your company may pay for it and let you use it, but company is directly invested in your success. So you're sort of your customer is that company that paid for it, and you're the user, but they are they're you both having the same problem. Company has a communication problem, so therefore you have a communication problem. So you need to solve it. You buy Slack, you pay for Slack. Sorry, and there you go. That's sort of the consumer centric model. Within the enterprise, your users are not your buyers. Um, their product the product is being used by a marketing. IT is building it, and then business or finance department is paying for it. These are all like absolutely disconnected entities. The only thing in common that they have is they have same parent company. It doesn't. It's not always like that. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the point is, users are further removed from the people who are investing in your product or investing in that solution. And it's usually one of the biggest problems that enterprise product managers have to solve. So being a good storyteller, being able to pitch your product to different people is really important. Um, small user base. I sort of mentioned this before. I want to push on that a little bit more. The external market is huge. Depending on which product you're building, you're going from tens of thousands to millions to even more, tens of millions of people out there who could be your potential customers. If you work with the company within the company that has 501 employee, like I said, we're talking about companies with 500 plus employees, so 501, right? How big is your market? 500 people, right? So it's really hard to collect a lot of user data. It's hard to collect a lot of um, quantitative information. So you have small user base. You have to wiggle. You have to use other means. Use qualitative data. Use user more. Rely on more on subjective data, user interviews, things like that. Your overall addressable market is a lot smaller. The other important thing, important difference that I wanted to highlight is the budget. With the consumer-centric companies, there's an ability, especially for startups, right? There's an ability to attract venture capital. You can go ask for money; they will give you money. Hopefully, if your idea has merit, and you're off to the races, right? You're off to build a product. If something is off with your product, you can always pivot. You can always change things as long as you're working with your users. Basically, the sky's the limit. Within the enterprise, there's very specific problem that you need to solve. You need to really focus on the problem and solve it. And there's only so much budget to go around, and sometimes the budget, there are problems with allocating that budget compared to getting venture capital. If you've ever seen Shark Tank TV show, they just cut you check right there in real time when during the show. With enterprise companies, sometimes budget not be it will not become available until next year when it's provisioned. So it may be a challenge, even if everybody buys into your idea, everybody buys into the product that you wanted to build. There might be logistical issues of getting the money that everybody agrees you need to get. So it's a challenge. It's still sort of a pain point. So there are obviously enterprise has a lot more possibilities. Obviously, enterprise has a lot more cool things that you would otherwise not see, especially if you're more on the technical side. There's a lot of technology challenges and technical products. Very, very down, dirty technology problems that product managers are solving that would otherwise not be available if you're only looking at consumer centric companies. And to wrap this up, one last slide that I have today. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why are we even building these enterprise applications if we can all go out and build Ubers and Netflixes and I don't know, all the other cool products for the consumers? Why are we doing things for the enterprise? It's not glamorous, right? It's not as exciting. And if you say, oh, I just built a new digital asset management platform for a large e-commerce retailer, nobody's gonna understand what you're talking about. But if you tell them, oh, I'm a product manager at Netflix, everybody's like, ooh, that's cool. So why why are we here? Why are we doing this? Um, Most of all, because the uh, problems that you encounter within the enterprise with building internal products and the knowledge that you can sort of tap into and learn and understand all these cool things is not just simply is not available in the consumer market. If I can use one example, I'll probably use Facebook again because I already talked about it. Think about all this data that Facebook has collected about their users. Now, they can turn that data into the meaningful insights for building other products. So if they see people being interested in trading things, they create more groups about trading. They built up the marketplace. That's how it happened. They had an insight. Oh, everybody's creating groups on exchanging stuff. Why don't we build a sort of single interface and single way to exchange for people to exchange things, call it a marketplace, and integrate it into Facebook. Voila, you have Facebook Marketplace. That's the insights, the amount of data, the amount of technology, the amount of smart people you meet in the enterprise is is probably leaps and bounds better than everywhere else. Being able to dig into the user problems deeper than everywhere else. Again, large companies tend to collect a lot of data about their users. So if you're working with external facing product, not internal, but if you're dealing with external facing product, or if you're exposed to it, it's really cool. If you really get start seeing a lot of interesting behaviors and trends that you would not otherwise be able to collect. And again, building absolutely amazing variety of products, but that would not be you would not be able, if you even if you're CEO of your own company and you're building a product, you would not be able to sort of get a big picture and build an ecosystem of 27 different products that just happens to be there. As a matter of fact, when EPAM hired me 4 years ago, they hired me to manage a product portfolio of 32 products together, taking care of every single aspect of the employee life at EPAM. And this was external. That was a product that we were selling externally. So if you're an engineer, we had a product for you. If you're an HR or talent acquisition, or somebody who just people's partner, we had a product for you. And if you're just a regular employee who wants to take vacation and check out how many hours you work, we had a product for you. All of that together was a whole product ecosystem supporting the life of the employee at EPAM. And I've never seen anything like that. I've been doing product management for 15 years. That's kind of like one of a kind. So that's why we do what we do. That's why enterprise product management is just as exciting, if not more. To me, it's more exciting because I spend more time there, and I sort of speak from experience. So that's what we do here at EPAM. These are the things. Unfortunately, I can't talk about specific products because they're under NDA, but I can talk about the work that we do and how exciting it is, and all the cool things that we get to do, all the cool problems that we get to see when we're looking at our clients and products our clients are building. So that wraps up the story for today. Thank you very much. And I think we have a couple of questions, so maybe we still have
We
about
do.
10 minutes.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you for your very insightful TED Talk. I'm a huge fan of your presentations and your memes. We have three questions. First one is how you keep a good environment where there are many issues or have an error culture not punished.
All right, I think there. This is a complicated question, so I'll answer the part that I think I can, and then we'll see if there are any follow-ups. So how do we keep a good environment when there are issues? We talk about issues, we address them, we work through them. One of the huge differences between cultures that we have at EPAM and product culture specifically is that mistakes are okay. You're expected to make mistakes. If I would see a product manager doing experimentation and not making any mistakes, I'd be very concerned. It would be something strange. Just to give you an example, before EPAM, I worked for a company that was very, very stagnated. They built the same application for 20 years, and their competition started to kick them out of the market. They lost 25% of the market in just 1 year. So it was critical for them to build something new. And part of my responsibilities when I worked there was building new products. We've tried to build 15 products. Only were only three of them made it out of the experimentation phase. So we failed 12 times before we built three products. Just let that sink in. There was no punishment. They had to overcome that culture because it was sort of do or die situation. And then when they saw that experimentation actually yields results even through mistakes, they sort of went along with it. So that's how you prove, you show your results, and that's how you say, hey, yes, we make mistakes, yes, we have issues, but here's the result, here's the positive outcome, here's how we make it happen. So hopefully that addresses at least partially the question. And if there's any follow-up, let us know. We'll get to it. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, please.
Yep, please.
Next one or two. Juan Diego Santos says, first, what is the most important skill for a product manager or business analyst? And the second one, please give him an advice to manage the blockers in a project.
Okay, I'm not a project manager, so I'll look at this from the product manager perspective. First of all, the most important skill for a product manager, and there would be it would be slightly different than from a B for a BA. I'm not going to talk about BA because I'm probably not least qualified of all the people. But for a product manager, it's two things. One is ability to communicate. Sometimes we call it storytelling. Sometimes we call it communication skills. However you want to position it, it's the ability to talk to people, ability to tell a story, either about your product or about the issues or something else, and its ability to tell people what's important to you and why is it important and why should they care. Uh, One of the things that we keep sort of recirculating is what we call a WIFM, what's in it for me. And that's the concept when you talk to your client, when you talk to your stakeholder, when you talk to your boss, always think what's in it for them. Why should they listen to you? What is out of everything you're saying, what's important for the boss? What's important for the stakeholder? What's important for your client? Why should they listen to you? Once you've identified that WIFM factor, what's important for them, what's in it for them, then that's what you need to say. And that's what makes a good storytelling. You really need to be able to tell an story and make your point. And that's probably one of the most important skills for a product manager. Uh, Managing blockers in a project, like I said, I'm a product manager, so for me, blockers are opportunities to find out why, what is the blocker, why does it exist, who's blocking it, and there's an opportunity to solve it, to address it, maybe figure out a way around it, build a process around it, or maybe, oh hey, maybe there's an opportunity to build a new product. We actually did something like this when we were building a digital asset management system. We talked to a bunch of users. They've identified that there's always this one blocker in every project that they do. Their project is creating images for a retail website, and there's always this one blocker every time they do it, and it led to creation of a new capability within the product. Like, hey, if we can build this thing, then we can address the blocker, and it's not going to be a blocker anymore. It's just going to be one of the steps in the workflow. So we, as a product manager, I treat um, all issues, all problems as an opportunity to innovate or an opportunity to learn something new. Really quickly, I see the question on my screen. Do I need to have a technical background to become a PM? No, you don't need
Um,
technical background. It's
Good.
really
That's a
simple.
question we get a lot. Yeah, that's a question
Yes.
we get a lot. I just want to do a quick reminder to anyone that's watching us right now. Please scan the QR code if you want to leave a question. We see that there's someone raising their hand. Join slido.com with this code and leave there your question, and we will answer it, or on the chat, wherever you feel comfortable, and we will answer it here. There's one more, Vlad. How do you manage deadlines as a PM when top management is always expecting quick results and they are used to traditional commitments about products?
Well, as a product manager, I don't manage deadlines. That's a project manager job, or it is solved differently in the product mindset world. So I don't. That's what project managers for. Again, sometimes you get to wear multiple hats, and there are exceptions to the rule, but I try not to because that's somebody else's job, um, and they need to do it. Sorry, it's a non-answer, but that's the truth. In the product management, in the product mindset, there are different ways to do it. We just simply don't have time to go into all of that right now. The product mindset, there's a release cadence that you continuously deliver something on and on. So, like I said, there's different ways to do it. I think we have time for a couple of more.
We have one more. It says, should success of product be always measured in terms of money, especially for the enterprise?
That's an easy one. Absolutely not. So there are different ways you can measure the product success in general. In the enterprise, unless it's an external facing product, you can't even you shouldn't probably even talk about money, because there are other factors, like efficiency, effectiveness, some internal metrics. Again, depending on the product, it would be different. But even in the with the products that are facing customers, money is not an issue. The example I gave like 2 minutes ago, 3 products out of 15 that were successful. One of the products that we built was absolutely free to our customers. They could just download it, use it, and not pay a single dime for it. But it helped us with customer retention. It helped us keep the customers that were about to leave or were planning to leave. Can we derive a monetary equivalent? Yes, absolutely. But can we, thank you, but can we say that, free product brought us money? No, we can't. It didn't bring us money. It helped us keep the money that we already have. But more importantly, it helped us keep the relationships with the customers that we already had. And that's a lot more important than the money. So, but depending on the product that you're building, and ultimately depending on the business case and the problem you're solving, that should be informing your measure of success of the product. All right.
Are you the funniest person on the pump product team?
No, we have a fine person, but she's not available.
Okay. Well, I think this is pretty much it, right on time. Thank you so much, Vlad, for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much.
today, for your insightful information, and we hope we had too many of this. Goodbye, everyone.